Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Now with today's main headlines. Grand Ayatollah Shirazi says bearing witness to wilayah of Imam Ali alayhi salam is not only recommended but part of the call for prayer. Global human rights organizations call for urgent action on current humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Anti-Muslim incidents and hate speech rising in wake of Israel-Hamas conflict. Representative of Grand Ayatollah Shirazi in Canada receives former Kuwaiti National Assembly member. Assalamu alaikum dear viewers, this is Hussein Jawad and watching Shia Waves live from Imam Hussein TV 3 in London. The daily scholarly meeting of Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sadiq al-Hussein Shirazi was held on Monday, 30th of Rabi' al-Awwal, 1445. Grand Ayatollah Shirazi discussed the istihab of Ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna aliyan waliyullah, and said most of the jurists believe that it is recommended to say this phrase bearing witness to wilayah of Imam Ali alayhi salam in the call for prayer. The only difference lies whether or not it is an essential part of the adhan. Let's watch the statements of Grand Ayatollah Shirazi together.
ببینید روایات رو باید جمع کرد. یه روایت همین روایتی که ایشون نقل کردن که در غدیر بعد خطبه پیغمبر صلی الله علیه و آله از اون گفتن با اشهد ان علی ولی الله، اومدن بعد منافقین به پیغمبر خدا صلی الله علیه و آله عرض کردن این چی بود، اضافه کردن فرمودن ففیما کلنا، ما حول چی داشتیم صحبت میکردیم، یعنی این تقریر کردن که اشهد ان علی ولی الله هست. یه روایت غیر از این که عرض کردم شیخ طوسی یا شیخ صدوق رضوان الله علیهما فرمودن روایاتی هست، چند تا نه یه دونه، بله نقل نکردن اون روایات را.
Three global human rights organizations issued a joint statement on Tuesday on the latest developments in Afghanistan in wake of the increasing number of victims of the devastating earthquake in Herat and the terrorist attack that targeted a Shia mosque in the center of Balkh province in the north of the country. The World Shirazi Foundation, Shia Rights Watch and the Non-Violence Organization said in their joint statement received by Shia Waves agency, the Afghan Bamyan Foundation had appealed to us to be as we have always known it, the voice of the oppressed Afghans in general and the persecuted Shias and Hazaras in particular, to convey their tragedies and the oppression they are enduring in international forums. It pointed out that what is happening in the country, especially the injustice against the Shia Muslims, is completely ignored by the international community, as the world is now the more concerned with what is happening in the Middle East. The statement expounded that reports indicate the killing and injury of at least 700 Shia Hazara civilians as a result of a terrorist attack during 2 years of the Taliban rule. As tensions continue to rise over the conflict between Israel and Palestinian resistance group Hamas, more and more Islamophobic incidents are witnessed around the world. More details in the following report.
Fears of Islamophobic violence have spread around the world as Israel's military assault on Gaza rages on. The assault on Gaza was triggered by an attack on Israel by Hamas, in which more than 1,300 Israelis died and others were taken hostage. In response, Israel has killed 2,329 Palestinians. A French woman was arrested by police in the capital, Paris, this week after her neighbors reported her for using the traditional Islamic greeting with workers in their accommodation building. According to reports circulating on social media, the unnamed woman was taken into police custody after her neighbor filed a complaint when overhearing her say, "Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you," in Arabic to some workers in their shared building. A landlord in Chicago in the U.S. state of Illinois repeatedly stabbed a 6-year-old boy to death and seriously wounded his mother in an attack motivated by their Islamic faith and the Israel-Palestine conflict. After Muslims reported incidents of discrimination throughout the U.S. this week, the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, the U.S.'s largest Muslim civil rights organization, said on X that the Islamophobic rhetoric being spread by politicians, media outlets, and social media platforms must stop. CAIR's Maryland office said it's getting reports of Muslim and Arab students being harassed and intimidated in public high schools and on college campuses. Civil rights advocates warn that FBI targets Muslims in wake of Hamas-Israel conflict. Since the war between Israel and Hamas broke out, reports of acts of Islamophobia have been growing in some Latin American countries, particularly Brazil. Muslims, especially women wearing a hijab, have been insulted and attacked on the streets, according to Arab News. In addition to disinformation, hateful and violent content and cyber harassment have been rampant on social media platforms. Some organizations have identified thousands of cases of Islamophobic hate speech, especially on X, formerly known as Twitter. This is Ali Al-Hadi reporting for Shia Waves.
Thank you to Ali Al-Hadi for the following report on the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. And now let's take a look at today's main headlines. Grand Ayatollah Shirazi says bearing witness to Wilayah of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib is not only recommended but part of the call for prayer. Global human rights organizations call for urgent action on current humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Anti-Muslim incidents and hate speech rising in wake of Israel-Hamas conflict. Also tonight, UN calls for immediate opening of Gaza's Rafah border crossing amid surging humanitarian needs. The representative of the Supreme Religious Authority, His Eminence Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sadiq Al-Hussein Shirazi, and the director of the Global Imam Shirazi Center in Canada, Hujjat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, Sheikh Saleh Saboué, received the former member of the Kuwaiti National Assembly, Saleh Al-Ashur, during his recent visit to the country. According to the correspondent of Shia News Agency in Canada, His Eminence Sheikh Saleh Saboué received Saleh Al-Ashur in his office in Toronto, where he visited Islamic centers affiliated with the Shirazi Authority in Canada. Shia Waves correspondent explained that the two-day visit included an important meeting between the two parties, resulting in agreements to establish projects and programs that serve the Shia communities in the country. Al-Ashur then went on to Montreal and Quebec to visit a number of Shia centers in the area. And now we continue with some short news. The founder and head of the World Peace Organization, Dr. Mehdi Alawi, stated in an article published in the Fair Observer, international media organization viewed by Shia Waves Agency, that the experience of the Arba'in opened my eyes to many possibilities for achieving world peace. He added, I had never encountered such hospitality, love, and generosity in my life, despite being held in Iraq under the threat of terrorism. I saw pilgrims from all over the world sharing together this beautiful spiritual atmosphere, and I was touched by the display of faith in humanity, which I had never seen anywhere else. He added that the Arba'in brought together people from all walks of life. It is true representation of their humanity. He concluded that the Holy Arba'in is the only event that gives humanity hope in the possibility of achieving world peace, and the cause of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is a message of peace and justice, whose light cannot be put out by the media blackout. The UN stabilization mission in Mali, known as MINSUMA, announced on Monday, October 16th, the pullout has started from 2 camps in the tense Kidal region. The peacekeeping mission kicked off its withdrawal from Mali's northern region. The army said the aircrafts came under fire from rebels during the landing. The UN peacekeepers cited the shooting as illustrating the rapid deterioration in security conditions for the lives of hundreds of its soldiers. The UN withdrawal from northern Mali is supposed to end by December 31st after 10 years of presence. A convicted ringleader of the terrorist group Daesh/ISIS was sentenced in Turkey on Monday to over 17 years behind bars. Istanbul 23rd Heavy Penal Court gave Hattab Ghazal al-Sumaidi 17.5 years in prison for establishing and managing an armed terrorist group. The country has since been attacked by the terror group multiple times, with over 300 people killed and hundreds more injured in at least 10 suicide bombings, 7 bomb attacks and 4 armed attacks. The opening of a key border crossing between the besieged Gaza Strip and Egypt is desperately needed, the UN warned on Monday. A plane carrying aid from the World Health Organization has arrived in El Arish, an Egyptian city in the northern Sinai Peninsula near Gaza. Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shukuri said earlier on Monday that the Israeli government has not taken a position that would lead to the opening of the Rafah crossing towards Gaza to allow for the entry of aid or the departure of citizens from third-party countries. We have reached the end of today's Shia Waves show. Let's remind our dear viewers of today's main headlines. Grand Ayatollah Shirazi says bearing witness to the wilayah of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib is not only recommended but also part of the call for prayer. Global human rights organizations call for urgent action on current crisis in Afghanistan. Anti-Muslim incidents and hate speech rising in wake of Israel-Hamas conflict. Representative of Grand Ayatollah Shirazi in Canada receives former Kuwaiti National Assembly member. UN calls for immediate opening of Gaza's Rafah border crossing amid surging humanitarian needs. You can view the latest news on our Shia Waves website, and you can send news of your city or country to be published on our news agency. Contact us on the numbers at the bottom of the screen. Thank you very much for watching. We pray to Allah Almighty to hasten the reappearance of the Master of our time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I am the sun, the star at the center of your universe.